Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind, and obviously I'm not John Dykes, I'm Kevin Graham. Paul's having a day off, and quite rightly after his heroic weekend where we've raised £25,190 for charity. Just let that sink in, eh? £25,190 for 4 charities, for Rock Talk, for Food Fact Friends Food Bank, Children First and Help for the Homeless. Now, everybody that's in this virtual room, everybody that donated, everybody that helped out over the weekend, you're all heroes. You're absolutely all heroes, and you should all be proud of yourself. I says to Russell before we got, I need to introduce Russell. What a terrible host I am, Russell. Eh? Oh. Look, what we did over the weekend is what Celtic's all about for me. It's what the Celtic community is all about and what the Celtic fans are all about. We're more than a football club. The club use that slogan, more than a club. We are the reason that we're more than a club. And what we've done over this weekend off the pitch shows why Celtic Football Club is very, very special to all of us, and why we're greater than one man, why we're an entity. As the great Tommy Burns actually says, we're for a people and a cause. Yep. And that's where we are. Now, Russell, what a day yesterday! I don't think any of us actually saw that coming. I don't think we could expect to have went through the absolute ringer like we did.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, first I echo everything that you said about John Dykes and the team. Absolutely incredible yesterday. So kudos to them, and a well-deserved day off for the big man. What an incredible amount of money, and thanks to everyone who's donated. And like you say, everyone's a hero. To yesterday, I don't know. I was questioning whether football was the right sport for me. After yesterday, today is the first time I've enjoyed being quadruple treble winners. Yesterday, I just felt relief. I was still stressed, in fact, even after we won it. I know Celtic's way to win is always going to be, never the simple option. It's never going to be easy. But by God, yesterday we were put through the ringer, were we not?
No, definitely. And it's a season. It's a game that summed up our season for me. It completely summed up our season. Sometimes we've looked great, then all of a sudden, in that second half, we were completely terrible. And even over extra time, we were completely terrible. And I think we actually showed the mental and physical frailties that we've shown this season, where it looks like the pressure has absolutely got to us. It's at half time, nobody would have expected what we saw in that second half. Nobody would have expected that. I mean, even when we went 2-1 down, we had a couple of chances. Eddie probably should have scored. He missed a couple of sitters. But as soon as Boyce scored, my arse went. I'm not ashamed to actually say that. I actually says, "Oh shit, here we go," because I know how fragile that confidence is in that Celtic team, and I don't know why that is, and that's something that's probably been proved that we can't sort. I don't think. Look, this is Neil's day. It's a team's day. So was yesterday. We've all made it clear what we actually feel where the club should go. But this is not the day that we're going to actually speak about it. We will mention it. But that summed up us this season, and it summed up what's wrong with us this season. There was a comment by Neil Lennon after the game. I'm not going to actually speak about it because I may as well. I'm away down that rabbit hole now. Neil Lennon says after the game, when we went 3-2 up, he says, "I thought we had won the game." at that point. And the first thing that jumped into my mind was, well, you should have made sure we had won the game at that point. That was the first thing that jumped into my mind when I read that comment after the game. And even then, like, we're 15 minutes away. We score a goal right at the half time of the first half, the extra time. And that should have demoralised Hearts. And I was watching it with my dad. I was lucky enough to watch it with my dad. Me and my dad have had a really, really tough year this year, so it was great to actually watch it with me. And I says to him as soon as we scored, I says, we'll coast this if we didn't give away free kicks on route 30 yards from our goal. And what did we do? We gave away an absolutely unnecessary free kick.
That's the one.
But look, there's a fairy tale about Celtic. And when you look at the way that we won that probably suited the way this season's been going. The way that we completed that treble, it's like, the way I look at it, it's like a kind of film franchise. First one was absolutely perfect, and we've had 3 sequels after that. And yesterday was the one where you realise that they can't make any more.
It went straight to DVD.
It went straight to Netflix. So yesterday at the end of it, it was like the heroes lying there in a burned out building, absolutely done in. It's like Doctor Who. We need regenerated. We actually do need regenerated going forward. But let's not get this away. We actually created history yesterday, and the players' mentality and the management staff's mentality need praised. It does need praised because I don't think we see these guys who are earning loads and loads of money, and we don't see the pressure that they're under. And it's I think it's clear that the players are under pressure.
Oh, I think so. There was a moment in the second half where Duffy and Julian literally don't communicate, even though they're both running full pelt for the same ball. Don't even think to talk to each other, nearly tackle each other. Just look lost. And you're sitting thinking that they've forgotten how to play. They've just generally forgotten how to play football all of a sudden. Now, first half, when we go to 2-0 up, that was like from the first version of the movie that you're referring to, you know? That was like, we look ice in the veins, which I love to see. Back to, what we do in cup finals, and that is just dismiss the opposition, do you know what I mean? And like you say, you couldn't see that coming second half. But when they scored, I have to say I totally agree. I was like, if we've conceded one, the Hearts players smelt blood. That's the honest truth. And it wasn't just the fear in the Celtic team. It was the fact that Hearts could smell it off them that really, really was to our detriment. But the flip side is, in the positive note, I thought when Scott Brown jumped up for that header, he showed that his mentality is still there, that it should be never underestimated as well, especially in him. No one wanted that ball more in this universe than what Scott Brown did when he went up for that head. That deserved that at the back of the net, because I just say that was a moment of pure inspiration, desire, drive to get to the ball. And of course, like you say about the fairy tale thing, it had to be Lee Griffiths who then stuck it away, because he writes his own scripts, that boy, I'm telling you. He writes his own scripts. But again, if Neil Lennon said that, I must admit, I've not seen that he said, I thought that was the game won. I didn't. I didn't. At no point did I think the game was won at that point. I really didn't. It was. I wasn't going to say I was expecting Hearts to equalise, but there was no way my mental state by this point in the match had allowed me to relax into some sort of, we've got this, guys. What I'd been put through the previous 105 minutes had completely eradicated any chance of me feeling relaxed and composed about a surefire victory just because we were 3-2 up.
That was the way the game went. I went utterly silent in the second half. Utterly silent when it went to 2 each, and I'm just going, let's just get through. Let's just get through this. Absolutely let's somebody produce that moment of magic that we've got in that squad, and just get this done.
I know.
And you get in the extra time, and as you say, Scott Brown, everybody, there was quite a lot of calls for him to be dropped, but that header, that was Roy Keane and Turin. The way that he wanted to get to that ball.
Yeah.
And if a run. Well, obviously, our treble run ended yesterday because we got beat off Ross County a couple of weeks ago. If a treble run had ended with Scott Brown scoring that header and that turned up to be the winning goal, that would have been the absolute fitting end to that chapter. It would have been a fitting end to that chapter, even if it was Lee Griffiths as well. If that Griffiths had scored that winning goal as well, that would have been fitting as well, just for us as Celtic fans. I mean, yesterday was the end of an era. Yesterday was an end of an era, and we made history that, look, it'll never be done. You only have to have a look at results in the last 4 or 5 weeks where both us and our main challengers, Rangers, have went out in the League Cup. Yeah. And it shows you how big an achievement this Celtic team have actually done over the last 4 years. 4 years to win all the trophies, domestic trophies on offer to us. Yeah. And it's been utterly fantastic, and these guys deserve all the praise that they're going to get from now and in years to come. In years to come, this team, the guys that have played over those 4 years that have made a contribution are going to be lauded, like teams in the 80s are and the 70s. Totally. These players will rightly, in 20 years' time, we will be talking about the time that we've done the 4 trebles.
I couldn't agree more. I think, one of the sad aspects of it is I don't actually think it'll get maybe as much kudos as what it should because of the league standings. The league position, I think, is actually, the annoying thing is, if there'd been no COVID, that cup final's played before this season starts. And I think it would have been a euphoric moment yesterday if we'd rounded off last season winning the Scottish Cup in the usual date that the Scottish Cup was. Because then even if we were behind in the title race at this point, we would have already had a quadruple treble moment. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now it seems to be balancing off against the league standings of the next season, which you rightfully point out, we can't even win the treble now anyway.
I know.
And I think that's quite a tragic aspect to it. That I don't think it is going to be as wildly celebrated as what it would have been had it happened in May, because that is the only competition that was left if the final had been in May as normal. Whereas right now we're looking at, well, we've won it, but we've went out the Europa League, the Champions League, we've went 13 points behind the league, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of getting bounced off that, when really, as you rightfully point out, if you look at it as this 4-year series and it's in its own entity, a quadruple treble is nothing short of phenomenal, legendary, and will go down, as you rightfully say, in history. In years to come, it will be looked back on in a far more greater light than what it potentially is just now. So whilst yesterday might have been a day of stress, anxiety, hating football, confusion, today I'm feeling a lot more, do you know what? Let's enjoy, the moment just for a wee second. Yeah, let's get back to business with the league, and that's our only focus now. But today, as a fan, let's just enjoy the moment for now. Do you know what I mean?
We've got to enjoy the moment. We've got to take, as you say, us Celtic fans have missed a hell of a lot in this pandemic. We've missed so much, probably more than any support in Britain. Oh, apart from the Liverpool fans, I'll give a wee nod. I'll give a wee nod to the Liverpool fans. They've missed something special as well. But we've missed something special because we haven't been in the stadiums. So yesterday was sort of fragmented. But this is where this virtual room, which is a Celtic State of Mind, has been brilliant. We've shared it with all these guys that are commenting, all these guys that come in, all these guys that were here over the weekend, guys and girls, that are here all over the weekend. And we shared it with them. And I didn't realise how big a part of my life that this chat, whatever this is, has become. and there's some guys in here I don't know them, they could pass me in the street. And some of them would maybe punch me right enough if they passed me in the street, but we'll see what goes up with that if any of them ever do meet me at the football when we're allowed back. But it was great seeing the comments and all of that in here. It was brilliant. It made you feel like you had shared it with people, and you look at the reaction of Paul, Laura, and Lawrence. Now, I'm really glad I wasn't on the live stream because they couldn't have got a meme, because it would have been, the second half was just full of expletives and me being utterly silent, going, I can't believe this football club's doing this to me again.
Totally.
But you look at the reaction. You look at the reaction, and Paul says it at the final whistle. He went like, why do you do this to us, Celtic? Because it's written in the stars. That's why they do it to us, because that was written to finish that. And now we can look back on it and we'll talk about the penalties just now and our feelings when it went to penalty kicks. But when Conor Hazard saved the second one, you were going, right, this is it. This is a chance to do this. Who's coming up? Then you see Christopher Ajer, who had been down with cramp about a couple of minutes previously, and he's strolling up to take that penalty kick.
It was the final twist in the tail, wasn't it? I honestly, my jaw dropped, and it was Chris Ajer. I went, what are they trying to do to me here? Like, I think he's only scored about 3 goals in his Celtic career. I've certainly never seen him take a penalty. I'm going, what is, like, and it was obviously always planned that he was penalty number 5. You know what I mean? And that is quite unique in itself, that predominantly a centre-back. I appreciate he played right-back, incidentally I prefer him, but predominantly he's played centre-half for Celtic. He was not the face I was expecting to see when the camera panned left outside the box, the boy walking up to hit the next penalty. I was not expecting it to be Chris Ajer. And again, like I think you're touching on, it just makes the heart start going even more again, doesn't it?
As I says, I was watching it with my dad, and Ajer's walking up with the ball, or he's been handed the ball. I can't remember. I was half behind the couch at that point, half just sort of peering across the couch. I mean, I'm 45, for God's sake, and I'm hiding behind a couch watching a game of football. No, I mean that shouldn't happen. That should be beyond that, Benu. But this is what it does to us. And I says to my dad, I went, he's hammering this down the middle. I went, he's hammering this ball down the middle. And that's what the nets were for. You can actually hear, because the stadium, there's nobody in the stadium, obviously, there's no fan. You can actually hear that ball. You actually hear the net struggling to hold on to the ball.
That crisp noise is so nice, eh? It's such a nice noise.
It's a great noise, especially when you do one. And his celebration. And the whole the whole squad celebration as well. It shows the relief that they had, the big relief that they had. I mean, it goes to penalties, and the pressure is on them, and they'll know themselves that they messed up. They'll know themselves. We'll never recover for this. 2-0 up in a cup final against a team of championship jobbers.
The headlines are written, Kev.
Right.
The headlines are written.
We will never recover for this if it goes wrong. And I'm so pleased for him. I'm really, really so pleased for him. And these guys have given me so much pleasure over the last 4 years.
Yeah,
so much. It's been my greatest period of watching Celtic, apart from Martin O'Neill. The first Martin O'Neill season was unreal, from where we started to where we went.
Sure.
And this has been an amazing journey. And you look at what happened. Rodgers leaving, which was the massive thing.
Yep.
Lennon got us over the line, and it doesn't matter what we want to say about Neil Lennon. Neil Lennon is now the only guy ever to win a treble as a player and a treble as a manager. Whether the board kept him there for this wholly sentimental reason, that's probably in keeping with the club, actually. But when we speak about sentimentality and romanticism and what we believe Celtic is, maybe the club have just been true to their values and just went, look, we're going to be utterly sentimental here, and we've got all this stock with quadruple treble winners in the Celtic store that we need to get rid of. So look, I had a great day. I had a brilliant day. I wished I hadn't went to penalties, but what did you think playing like the whole game? Well, let's have a wee look through, please. For me, Christopher Ajer was the best Celtic player on the pitch. Yeah,
totally I agree. Like I touched on just a wee minute earlier, I think since switched to right back. I feel a lot more confident with him as the right back. I feel a bit sorry for Frimpong just now because I think he's getting a rough time of it. I'm not convinced he's a right back or a right winger. I'm not quite sure what his position is yet, but we'll work on that in the future. I think for now I would have Ayer at right back every game. He's solid at the back. We all know that. And going forward, I would say I think he's a lot more handy going forward than perhaps any of us sort of foresighted. I think he's a natural. We all know he used to be a midfielder by trade, and he was then obviously developed into centre back. I know that's been brought up in the pod before, but at right back he looks pacey. He's physical, so you can always nudge past his defender as well. And his final ball's not even, it's not bad. I think if he was to get a good run at right back, I think he can make that position his own. And I've always had the vibe with Ayer when he was playing centre back that he does rate himself a bit as a footballer. That's the honest truth. I don't think just being an out-and-out centre back is what Chris Ayer wants to do. So by giving him this role at right back, he's also getting to express himself a wee bit more on the ball with less risk, as opposed to trying to dribble it out for centre back and leaving us in the shite. Do you know what I mean? I think when he's in this right back row, he's expressing himself a bit more freely, and like I say, it gives us a lot more security defensively as well. I thought he had a really good game yesterday. I thought Scott Brown first half especially was excellent. I thought he was a rollback. I thought Naismith and Halliday bit massively, which played into his hands perfectly. People forget, see, we're talking about quadruple trebles. He's lifted all of those trophies. He has been there, seen it, done it. These wee Yannies that are trying to nip at someone like this, guys, you're wasting your time. You're out your depth, trying to play the sort of mind games with him, or when it gets to the stage that you're doing, accidental stamps. I mean, give me peace. Stuff like that. I think you're dealing with the wrong person. But
there was nothing accidental about Naismith stamping Scott Brown in the first half. Nothing accidental whatsoever. You saw what Stephen Naismith done to Johnny Hayes a few seasons ago. Yep. There was nothing accidental about that stamp whatsoever.
Oh, agreed, mate. No, I agreed. I wasn't actually meaning it was accidental, by the way, just for the record. We all know what he was doing. But also, I think when you do stuff like that, you're only letting Scott Brown know he's winning.
Aye.
That's all you're doing is he's winning. And I thought Halliday, who comes over all right on media compared to what I thought he would. Do you know what I mean? I had my preconceptions about him. He's not too bad in the old media, but I thought the old Andy Halliday was back yesterday. That slide tackle, 40 minutes late. It's just embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? He had the cheek to sort of moan about it as well, but I just thought those two instances showed that Scott Brown, firstly, lives in other opponents' heads, and second, I thought actually as a footballing display his first half, I thought it was really, really good. And a real plus point.
I've said plenty of times that he's more than just the captain of that Celtic football. Over the last 4 years, he's been Celtic State of Mind. He has been Celtic State of Mind, yep. And I think we'll have to look for a replacement for Scott Brown, and I think it's a mentality that we've got to replace, not just the player. Yep. You won't get a like-for-like player now, but you need to replace that mentality. Callum McGregor probably shows leadership in other ways, but yep. Davey M makes a good point here. Sorry, lads, I haven't got access to put the comments up. Paul is in the background somewhere, so I'll just read out the comments, and Paul maybe will put them up if he's in the back somewhere. He's doing his John Leckie production from a bunker in deepest in Fairmont. So Davey M makes a good point here. Ayer got skint for the first goal. Ayer and McGregor were poor at the first goal down that right hand side. Both of them never actually put in a challenge, which allowed the ball to get put back to Halliday to swing in from Liam Boyce. Yeah, and you look at Duffy never covered himself in glory. Then either he lost Liam Boyce, But yeah. I've noticed that, and I'm talking about leadership with Callum McGregor here. Callum McGregor's not the type to fly into challenges and to wind up opposition players or take the opposition players' mind off the job at hand. Callum McGregor's there to drive the team forward, and I've noticed it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks for Celtic. He's been a bit powder puff defending for the goals, and he was powder puff for Scotland as well, defending for one of the goals. So that's not part of his game. And folks say that we give Callum McGregor an easy time on the Celtic State of Mind. I thought he was poor for the goal yesterday, and I thought Ajer was poor for the goal. But overall, I thought Christopher Ajer was Celtic's best player.
Yeah, I thought Ajer had a good game as well. Even with that goal, Ajer did track his man the whole way. It was the pass to Halliday that he couldn't get over in time to stop the cross. I think when you're talking about replacing Brown, and it's more than a captain, I couldn't agree more. I do another podcast as well, and we talk more about general football, like, you know, the outside Celtic. I know there's another world, and we were talking about when Vincent Kompany left Man City, and you need to replace not just a centre back with a 60 million centre back. You need a huge character to come in, and they gave the armband to David Silva, or David Silva if you prefer. And it's just, you know, I mean, there's a big contrast there. And I think Scott Brown leaves a massive, massive vacuum if and when he does, decide to call it a day. Because, like I say, I mean, you're looking for, if you're talking about, you know, what he brings as a captain, you only need to look, as I've already said, you know, that extra time header. And that's a guy whose legs have gone, remember? 105th, what was it, 105th minute? You know what I mean? There he is. He's the one leaping higher than anyone. Which, ironically, was the first time I've seen him do that, even though at the start of every game, he runs out and does that imaginary header when he comes at the tunnel. I was I've never actually seen him do that before. So it was quite refreshing to know he actually does have it in his locker.
It's one. I mean, he's 35, 36, and he doesn't cease to surprise you. It looked like he was struggling when he went off yesterday.
No.
Before the second half of extra time yesterday, we've just scored that goal, and he got the team back into a huddle, even though he was going off. He got the team back into a huddle just before we went out for the second half of the extra time, and that's going to be something that we are going to miss. That is something that we are going to miss, but it's something that we've got to appreciate, and it's something that we've got to love, and it's something that we will remember. We'll remember Scott Brown of these last 4 years, and he's one of the most decorated players in Celtic's history now. And for me, you talk about legends like Billy McNeil, who is nobody will replace Billy McNeil for me as the club's most legendary captain. I see Scott Brown. I wonder what the viewers think of this as well. I see Scott Brown as more as a Roy Aitken, a guy who, in years to come, will get in every top Celtic 11 because of what he brought to the club.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong here. Was that 22nd trophy yesterday?
I think it might have been,
22 trophies to be lifting that, and, you know, the vast, vast majority as captain. That's, you know, frightening. Every one of the 9 in a row so far he's lifted. The whole quadruple treble he lifted. I mean, yes, we could say the word legendary gets bandied about too much. However, in the instance of Scott Brown right now, he's already cemented his as far as I'm concerned. And this happens in football, by the way, as well. Players get to a certain age, Kev, and every time they play a bad game, it's because they've got dodgy, their legs have gone. It's a lazy excuse. It's just... You just get tarred with that brush, and then it's just like, oh, he's shite because he's that age. And that's not actually looking into it properly. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes great players have rubbish games that could be 27. Do you know what I mean? It happens. I have to think that Scott Brown coming out the side for Sorrow was to the team's benefit of late. But I completely understood yesterday why he started Brown. As much as if I was picking the team, I probably wouldn't have. I did still see the valid arguments for Brown playing. And the main one is, like you're just touching on there, maybe isn't even the football side of it. It was just the rest of them knowing he's there. What he'll be saying on the pitch, the reactions he's getting off the opposition, his headers in extra time. I mean, these are the things that you can't get that off anyone else in that whole squad. Do you know what I mean?
Right, I'll go to another comment here, Mr. Briggs, who comments quite a lot on the show. We won't miss it too much, Kev, when Scott Brown ends up on the coaching team. You just know it's going to happen. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that would be a natural progression for him. I certainly hope he does. I certainly hope that there is already that plan in place, because you need to remember it was only, 12, 18 months ago he was looking at starting a new life in Australia. And that would have been not only to the detriment of the team at that point, but that would have been also losing, as you say, this focal point of what Celtic is just now. And if I was to think about what my progression planning would be for Scott Brown, I would guess it was already in place when he signed his latest 2-year deal that we'll see how you are football-wise. If you still want to carry on, we'll discuss it. But if you're not, if it is coming at the end of the road, you're going to be straight into the first-team coaching staff. And I would be doing that. I believe he's got his badges, does he not? I'm sure he does.
I'm not 100% sure what's actually happened there.
I'm sure.
There seems to be a natural progression, like there was a natural progression with Neil as well. When Neil took onto was started off at the reserves, then he was moved in unfortunate circumstances into Gordon Stratton's coaching staff as well.
That's right.
And there seems to be a natural progression there for Scott to be around this club for years and years.
I really hope so.
It'd be quite funny. Let's look ahead for the rest of the season. Now, we won yesterday, I think, done enough not to get our hopes too high of what can happen at the end of the season.
That's a good point.
We saw enough. Maybe if we had won 4 or 5-0, you would have to be, well, we are on the ceiling anyway today, we're on the roofs. If we had won 4 or 5-0, we might have been gone, it's on. But yesterday, I think, tempered that. It didn't really give us any hope going forward.
Some of the
leveled it off, and it's making us appreciate yesterday as a moment more because of the way the game went, for me anyway.
I couldn't agree more.
Now, Scott Brown, we've already seen Sorrow coming back in. Is Scott Brown just going to be an impact sub? Could he actually be more influenced just coming off the bench as we could look to rebuild in January? I think we should look to rebuild in January. I think the rebuild starts today. I think yesterday was the end of the chapter and the rebuild starts today. In January, we could lose 3 or 4 players. And I think Scott Brown's influence is not going to wane. I think we're going to need to use Scott Brown's influence in a different way, which is coming off the bench.
Well, I think it's a great point because I actually think his most influential display of the season was St Johnstone away.
That's right.
And funnily enough, he came on as a substitute at the same time as Lee Griffiths, who scored. But Scott Brown, when he came on, again, it's like you say, it might not even... He was trying a lot of forward passes that game as well when he came on, a couple of dinks over the top and that. He was fresh. And also, I think with Scott Brown, he's quite intelligent football-wise. I believe that. And I think when he's been watching a game from the sides, he's working out exactly what the process of this game is. He's working out exactly what their tactics are and how he could impact it when he comes on. I think he does have that, that sort of savvy about him. And I actually think his most influential display was that at McDiarmid Park. So definitely, I mean, to take him out the starting lineup doesn't necessarily mean the end. It doesn't have to mean the end. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't. And a whole new version of Scott Brown could actually develop from here. And his influence, obviously, clearly in the dressing room is unparalleled. Do you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. And him, in the trenches at the side is no downgrade in the slightest, and no sort of patronising sort of use of him in the slightest either. It's complete, respect for you, but everything has to evolve. And like you say, if that was an end of an era yesterday, and the fact of the matter is the 2 games before the cup final we've played better. That's the truth with the 2 wins. If that's been a sign of the future, well, yesterday was the end of the past, and it's now about going forward and using players differently. My worry was yesterday with the confidence side of things was I didn't know if they were. I didn't think there was 5 penalty takers capable of scoring. I didn't think they had the confidence to do it. They looked short, and that actually concerned me that we've maybe spent a lot of time now talking about a potential, replacing of Neil Lennon. My worry a wee bit yesterday was, are these guys confidence-wise so short that could another manager even recover that in time for, between now and the end of the season? We're on a short period here. We need to be an instant turnaround. And it looks quite, like you say, one chink in the armour, and, they do seem to they fold a bit.
I don't think that malaise and that lack of confidence has been there too long this season for me to actually say with any confidence whatsoever that the coaching staff have got the knowledge to actually turn it round. I think they've tried. I think they've tried virtually everything. And what they'll be hoping for now is the fact that we've won that penalty shootout gives a natural reaction. It actually gives a natural reaction because they've tried. They have tried other things. What I'm going to say is it's very easy enough to say managers didn't play. Players didn't play for the manager. But you saw when Bruni and McGregor were going to pick up the trophy. They tried to get Kennedy and they tried to get Neil Lennon to come with them to pick up the trophy. You saw the reaction of the players at the final whistle. And maybe we look too much into the body language because we're no in the inner sanctum of the dressing room. But they players looked together. They players looked absolutely together at that final whistle at that moment. Even at the penalty kicks, they looked... extra time, when you saw the camera pan around the extra time, they all looked attentive. They all looked like they were paying attention to what Neil and the coaching staff were actually telling them.
They played devil's advocate, though. They did also look like a collective of, a crisis of confidence at the same time as well. They looked in unison there as well. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. There is. I mean, I'm sure when we review this season, there's plenty of bits where we can point where this crisis of confidence comes from, but I didn't think that's the day.
I agree.
That's not for the day to talk about that. I'm going to come into another comment here for Francie W. I love that name. That's a great name, Francie. Comments all the time. Russell is on the bucky in that fancy glass. True or false? Is that Buckfast you're drinking out that wine glass?
If only, my man. If only. Mondays at 1 o'clock. It's just not quite my style, but no. It's food for thought for next week, definitely.
Now, going forward, we've got a game against Ross County the other night on Wednesday. I think it is Wednesday night. Now, it's nice to see John Hughes back in football. John Hughes is a friend.
Yep.
John Hughes is a friend of State of Minds, and we've interviewed him a few times. Genuine big guy, but I hope his good run doesn't start until Thursday after he plays Celtic. What do you think Neil Lennon will do with Connor Hazard?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because obviously, the title of the show is where does Celtic go from here? Celtic have, as I say, in recent weeks shown, a different sort of version of themselves in terms of team selection. It's the style of football improved. And I thought at the back, Connor Hazard looked very assured. Yesterday, I take a point that we made off air. I thought, in hindsight, he was fouled for that second goal, right? He was. But the third one's it was madness. However, the balancing act now is he going to be focusing today on the mistake he made for the equalising goal, or is he going to be focusing on the two penalty saves? Now, I know where my money is. He'll be focusing on the positive. So if he is, then you've actually got a really confident goalkeeper, and now might be the time to stick by him. I'll be honest. I think in terms of the goalkeepers, I don't think there's any chance Barkas will be there beyond January. I'll say that right now. I think that's their mind's made up on that. You don't spend $5 million on someone, and basically if he makes any sort of mistake, he's out the team straight away, which tells you they've got no confidence in him at all. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back at AEK or back in his home country anyway for a half the price that we paid for him. I think, to me, they've made their mind up on him. I don't think that, you're not playing. Connor Hazard was fourth choice last season out on loan. Do you know what I mean? If he's now ahead of your $5 million goalie, there's no way back for him. I don't think.
There isn't any way back. And what I would say about Connor Hazard, he reminded me of somebody yesterday. He reminded me of Fraser Foster in his first season.
I know.
And a big Bambi on ice who was scared across balls. Now, I'm going to say this. The second goal, Naismith fouls him. But Connor, you should be smacking that wee run about the place. You shouldn't be letting him do that to you. You should be absolutely gone through him. For the third goal, he should have went through the Hearts boy as well. He's came out, realised that he's not getting it, then that's done. Let's go back to the wee run Naismith as well after the first penalty kick, who tries to have a go at Hazard. as well to put pressure on the guy. And as Mr. Briggs points out here, moment of appreciation for Griffiths telling Naismith to shut it after he after jogging back after Griffiths had scored the penalty kick. Connor Hazard, if the team are in today, I'm sure they probably will be in at some point today. I would fully expect Stevie Woods to be sorting the positives with him. We'll be going through that game with him and going, look, we know that you need to improve this, but Stevie Woods has got a track record. And for me, Stevie Woods should just say to him, there's Fraser Forster, and this is where he was in his first season, like you.
Making those sort of mistakes.
Making those sort of mistakes. The guy's only 22, which is extremely, extremely young for a goalkeeper.
Agreed.
In this time. So I would fully expect Stevie Woods to be in there today, working with him, going, what's the positives? Let's go through the positives. We'll work on that. I didn't expect to see Hazard get dropped because he'll be elated at this precise moment in time of what he done. He's
a Scottish Cup final penalty shootout hero. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, saved 2 out of 5 in a Scottish Cup final. And that is all you'd be reminding him of him right now. Do you know what I mean? That's all you need to try and, like you say, focus on that side of it. On the flip side, I wouldn't be surprised if they do try and get Forster again in January. I know it seems like a argument that's went round and round, but pride will be swallowed eventually, I think, on both sides. I think Celtic will go back for him, even though they probably feel like they shouldn't because he's turned them down. And Forster will go back to Celtic because he'll realise Southampton are only going to play you no matter what reasons you've got for thinking that they should. They've made their mind up as much, and I think they'll both back down. Honestly, I think that'll be the move that happens in January.
If we need to move forward as a football club, which we need to do, if we need to regenerate, is just going for Forster just
10 in a row.
Then we get back to short-termism. And this is where the reason this club looks dead on its feet, the team looks dead on the feet, is the short-termism of this 10 and the pressure trying to do the quadruple treble. The team might now blossom and get air in their lungs that cup final's over. Last season's finished and they can focus on this season and going forward. I think Fraser Forster's had his chance. And if you were bringing back Forster, for me, you would have to be telling Hazard, by the way, you're the number 2. He's only here for 6 months again. Then we want you to work with him. We want you to actually get under his tutelage and see what you can do. A Facebook user just pointed out that when we got Fraser Forster 10 years ago, he was the same age as Connor Hazard.
Yeah.
He was 22 years old. And I saw a young Fraser Forster yesterday in those goals. I really did.
No, it's fair.
He looks a competent enough shot stopper. He looks like he can, but he's got a flap in him. But
he's not physically imposing enough, Kev. That was his problem. He's a big unit, but it's like, come on, you just need to be dominant. You need to, and I think rightfully you point out with Forster. I think that comes with experience and it comes with playing games at the highest level. It comes with confidence, and that obviously that penalty shootout will have given him plenty of that. But back to my point, I agree with you on the terms of the Forster thing. I think that is what they'll do, and I think it will be on that sort of basis that it is 5 months. Like, look, you're not going to play. You either stay at Southampton and don't play, or you come here and play, and we're going for the 10. And it is short-termism, but we've got nothing else to play for the rest of the season but 10 in a row. So there has to be an element of short-termism, I think, at times as well. I'm not saying it's, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. I just think that is a move that they will try and do in January, as they say, Cheerio to Barkas, because I cannot see him being there past the end of January at all.
I don't know about that. I don't know. Is Forster coming back going to be like the Shane Duffy situation, where we thought Duffy was going to be the absolute be-all and end-all to all our problems? Big Fraz comes back and he's going to be the be-all and end-all of our problems, and we're going to go unbeaten for then to the end of the season. Didn't get me wrong, I would love that to happen, but for what we saw yesterday and what we've seen in the last 8 weeks, I didn't trust this team to actually go and beat Ross County on Wednesday night.
Well, I know.
And I didn't mean that in a bad way. It's just the way this season's been going.
But if we're honest though, Kev, as well, right? See if we're completely honest, see all this be all and end all and stuff. That was the fans. It wasn't Celtic saying if we sign Shane Duffy, it's the be all end all. That was the fans that were reacting like that. So similar with Foster coming in, I think they'll be saying to themselves, can he improve us? Yes. And the only be all and an end all, and it'll come from the likes of me and you, probably once he signs.
Well, football fans were allowed to actually
absolutely
put full stop on things and make rash, radical proclamations of what's going to happen when we sign players.
Yeah.
We need to speak the penalty kicks. Now, I'm of an era where I had never seen Celtic win a domestic penalty kick shootout.
Yeah.
I was at Ibrox when we got beat off Raith Rovers.
That was my first ever penalty shootout growing up. Again, a bit like yesterday, Kev, I had a moment where I thought, is football really for me? I don't think I like this game anymore. I can't deal with this. I was 7 years old, just going, Dad, all my pals are Rangers fans. Why do we have to support this team that will get beat every week? And the penalties was Raith Rovers. It's just like, God's sake, man. Sorry, carry on.
Somebody just pointed out the Dundee United game. We beat Dundee United in a semi-final on penalty kicks. First final, then I'll clarify that. The first final I've seen on one on penalty kicks. But mind you, I still haven't seen the penalty kick since 1994. I walked out of Ibrox.
Really?
I walked back to the supporters bus. I still haven't seen McStay's missed penalty kick to this day.
Really? Wow.
I still haven't seen it. And I was there in 1990 as well when Anton Rogan unfortunately missed as well. Now, yesterday was a bit of payback for me for those two games. And it's interesting. I really had the fear when Mikey Johnson stepped up to take that penalty kick.
Well, again, he's young, isn't he? He's so young. He's only just back into the team. And as I said to you, though, to be honest with you, I felt it was a real lottery yesterday who the 5 penalty kick takers were. Apart from 2, Lee Griffithson, you would take one, and Ryan Christie. So when Christie missed, I thought, I've got no idea who's even left to take a penalty, because like I say, they all look just so mentally drained and, lacking in confidence. I thought they may as well just be pulling out short of stick first, you know what I mean? Just going with that. And then, like you say, I mean, when it was Ayer penalty number 5, I think that tells you everything you need to know about how many people were forthcoming to take a penalty as well.
Definitely, and Neil Lennon says after the game they had been practicing penalty kicks and Big Ayer had been the best one in training. So that's why he was number 5. And Christopher Ayer says after the game that he wanted to be number 5. He says he wanted to be number 5. So you've got to admire that. I like that. You've got to admire that absolute confidence.
Yeah, you need to be like that if you're going to take one. And like you're saying about Mikey Johnson, what is he? Is he 20 now, Mikey Johnson?
I'm not 100% sure.
I think he's 20. And, it takes real bollocks, but I also like the fact that means, obviously we know with the tricks and stuff, that he's got a bit of swagger about him. But I like people who've got that sort of self-inner belief. And, that's a good thing going forward if you think you've got players that have got that in the locker. And we're also talking about mental frailty. Yesterday, it was clearly on show, right, from the second half onwards. There's no two ways. That even more respect to the Celtic players for winning that penalty shootout. 4 out of 5 penalties means that their mental turnaround, if you like, was quite spectacular. Do you know what I mean? It's actually more of an achievement because it wasn't like we're going into the game, okay, we've won the last 11 trophies, but like you kind of touched on earlier, every aspect of pressure was on us in that penalty shootout. It was all on them. The headlines were written. The disaster of second half onwards had just occurred and is fresh in the mind. They're obviously the 2 and 12, the 2 wins in 12 they're only just out of that sorry chapter of this season. I think it actually does. It gives you hope, and they'll keep the faith thing and that. But I mean, they do give you wee moments where you've got to, don't you? Because that was quite remarkable that they managed to, dig that out, and that does give you, I think, a bit of belief going into the second half of the season that they're still believing. So we've got to as well.
When you actually look at it, we had one hand on the trophy. We score in 106 minutes with Lee Griffiths. Then we lose another goal from our Achilles heel, which is a set play.
Yeah.
We were on the deck. We're there for the taking at that point. We're the team that's low because Hearts get the boost at that point with that equaliser. They get that boost with that equaliser. So we've got to praise the mental strength of the guys who stepped up and went forward and took that penalty kick. And you've got to praise Connor Hazard as well for putting the mistakes behind him and actually saving the penalties.
Very good point.
And you've got to praise Lee Griffiths, who showed utter balls of steel in Serbia as well when he came on basically just to take a penalty kick.
Right.
And that was his first touch of the ball. And yesterday you knew Griffiths was going to be first. You knew Griffiths was going to be first. Yep. You knew McGregor was there as well because, well, no, actually, think about that. It was Griffiths and McGregor 1 and 2 for Scotland as well in Serbia.
That's true.
And then you had Ryan Christie, who it was a poor penalty. It was a good height for Craig Gordon to save, as well. And then you've got Mikey Johnson. I mean, penalties are a lottery. Penalties. Let's not hang with. Penalties are a lottery, and anybody. We could have lost in penalties, but we didn't. And let's not focus on that. Where does Lee Griffiths go now? What are we going to do with Lee Griffiths? Because once again, Lennon turned to him in a time of need. He didn't turn to Kamala. He didn't turn to anybody else. He turned to Lee Griffiths.
I know.
He turned to Lee Griffiths again.
Lee Griffiths has something that the other strikers at the club don't, and that's he writes his own scripts, in my opinion. I mean, honestly, it's unbelievable. He has magic about him, Griffiths, for me. He has the X factor as a striker. Now, it's like when you say someone's got it, and you don't know what it is, but they've just got it. He's got it. And I think it's been one of the most, it's been a very strange season so far. I think the Lee Griffiths thing is one of those aspects that in a normal routine season would be getting highlighted a lot more than it is, because it is baffling what's happening with him. He's months to get fit. I remember being on this show in October and we were talking about what does match fit even mean? If it's taken him, because he was a wee bit behind in pre-season, it's then took him 2.5 months to get up to speed. Mm-hmm. Since then, I think he started 2 games. One against AC Milan, which again was just the most bizarre use of him ever. What are you trying to do here? I mean, that just didn't make any sense either. And then you've got his impact when he came on as a sub. The important goal at McDermott Park, which I spoke about earlier. Then, what could have been the winner yesterday in a Scottish Cup final. And like you say, rightfully pointed out, in Serbia for Scotland coming on just for a penalty. But guess what? He scores it. He goes first and he scores it. No two ways. I think it's time the second half of the season to do what we did with him last season and unleash him again. I think even if you've got this principle about fitness and he's clearly not passing the scores that are required or whatever, play him for the first half. Play him 45 minutes. Play him anyway. Get him more involved, because I've got more faith in him scoring goals in the second half of the season, and important goals in that than I do at any of the other forwards. And I'm going to include Edouard in that. Unfortunately, this season he's just not been anywhere like his usual self. And I thought his 2 misses yesterday, they were almost carbon copies, weren't they? Really, really strange. And he just, I don't know, he's lacking, I don't know, about oomph or bava. I know he's got that sort of persona anywhere, that he comes over like that, like he's quite laid back anyway. But I don't know, his 2 finishes really lack conviction, and that's not something that really you would associate with Edouard, especially the bigger the occasion. He tends to thrive in that sort of environment and atmosphere.
I said to Paul last week, we've got 4 strikers and we can't trust any of them. And that's probably the first time in a long, long time I can actually say that about a Celtic strike force, that we can't trust any of the 4.
Here's one. If a bid comes in for Edouard in January, that's substantial? Bear in mind he's got 18 months to go. Would they consider selling in January, Jink?
I don't expect Edouard to be here in February. I do not expect him to be here in February. I really don't. I think his time at Celtic is up. I think he's checked out. I really do. I think Encham's checked out as well. And I think they will be the two. They will be two of maybe a number of players that will leave in January. I can see a massive turnaround of players in January, rightly or wrongly. And we'll probably see in January if we get the likes of Foster coming back on loan, if we're really doing a Tony Mowbray, let's chuck everything at it and let's try and salvage this short term. But I can't see Edouard being there. Look, it's not last season's Edouard we're talking about.
No, it might benefit everyone all round, because also you're gonna get more of a substantial fee for him, and there's still that extra 6 months in his contract as well. And I think, like you say, we're not selling the odds on Edouard. We've had the last couple of years. You can only, football's ever changing, and day to day it changes. And unfortunately, Edouard that we're going to be selling won't be, a tenth of the loss of the team as what it would have been in January last year. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Edouard's class with the fact he's a French national as well. He'll have teams that will come in for him no matter, because the teams won't look to see what he actually does in Scotland. It'll be what he does for the French national team. Yeah, the under levels. The fact
he's a goal scorer for them now, isn't he?
The fact that he's came from the PSG academy, the fact that he's got a number of goals here as well. But the be all and end all is not that he scores against Ross County. The be all and end all is not that he has a cool penalty kick finish or a disrespectful penalty kick finish, depending on what way your breed's buttered. Yesterday, that won't matter. We will get the fee. I don't think this 30-40 million for Edouard, for me, was always pie in the sky. I think there's a limit to what a player can get played in Scotland, and I think the limit's the Kieran Tierney limit. I don't think we'll get any more than that for Edouard, whether up front or in increments, installments. But I do reckon that he'll leave in January. Yeah. And I do. I mean, Neil Lennon did say, and if it's Neil Lennon that's doing the rebuilding, then I've got a kind of problem with that, because I think we need to actually change. And I'm not going back over old ground. You can listen back to all the old podcasts. I'm not changing my opinion. I have says when Peter Law comes on here to do his interview, he'll be selling us the Jack Ross project. I do still believe that, and that's only in my head though. that's only. I've got no inside information whatsoever. That's only in my head. I reckon we're going to go into a period of downsizing, but just because of the COVID stuff. I do think football is going to go into a period of downsizing, and I can see us changing direction in January. I think yesterday was the end of this generation of domination, and we need to move on to the next bit. And guys like Connor Hazard and Mikey Johnson are going to be part of that. Now, Mikey's back. It's unusual to see an actual Wild player in a Celtic jersey.
We used to have a queue of them, remember?
An actual winger on a Celtic jersey. I want to see him playing against Ross County. I want to see him starting against Ross County. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought when he came on, I thought he looked really good. I think, considering the length of period he's been out, he was extremely sharp. And like I was touching on earlier, I mean, he has got a trick up his sleeve all the time. He's always looking to get by his man. He plays very positively. And I think at times Celtic this season have strayed into the old sort of, the way it was kind of going in the third season under Rodgers, a lot of side to side, a lot of slow-paced football. Where I think Mikey Johnson obviously firstly gives you an injection of pace, but more importantly, he's direct. And, quite similar. I actually thought Rogic at times yesterday was our most direct player. I thought it was, the dancing feet were out in at different moments. I wonder if he's going to play a big part as well in the second half of the campaign.
I don't know. I don't think he done much yesterday when he came on. I'm surprised Turnbull went off. I'm surprised that was a substitution. I was also surprised Greg Taylor went off, but I understand why that was. You've got the Hearts team. It was actually then tiring, and you're bringing on Laxall and Frimpong to Andy Andy Halliday had just went to left back at that point,
That's
and was
right.
already was blown out his shifter. So that's why Frimpong went out there. Understand bringing on Laxalt. Laxalt's faded from the player that came in on loan when he was playing with the adrenaline and all of that. I thought Greg Taylor done well yesterday. When you have a look, somebody's putting up the comments now. That's freaking me out now.
I noticed it as well.
Lenny off in January as well, says Robert Hyland. And I've been saying that for a couple of weeks. I think that today is the time of rebuild. I put the comment yesterday right away. I went, we've created history. Now it's the end of an era.
Yep.
The rebuild starts today. And if it's with the current coaching staff, I'm hopefully the current coaching staff have got the same mindset as me as well.
Yeah.
That that it's done. We need to move on now. And we need to actually start making decisions for the long-term future of the club. And that means getting rid of the players that didn't want to be there.
And you wonder as well, I mean, obviously it was such a famous quote when Lennon said that. That will go down now as being, one of those big moments this season when he came out and said that after the European exit, when he said, there's guys who don't want to be there, yet they all stayed. That will be remembered as a huge point, especially if, like you're alluding to, Kev, that in January, those said players all do leave. That'll put bigger question marks over it. Firstly, their value's only depreciated, in the last 4 months. It has. It's only going to have depreciated because they've not contributed so far this season, or the contract in the case of Edward is winding down. And secondly, what benefit has it done us this season if there was guys that didn't want to be there, keeping them in the squad, keeping them about? Because if you know it, Lennon, then believe you me, the other players know it. And that just creates a toxic environment. That can't be any plus side to the squad. So if we do see this exodus in January, I think what Robert's saying, if Lennon's off there as well, it would actually make sense if they all went at the same time.
It would make perfect sense. Donny Boyce 67. We wouldn't need a great defence if we could keep teams under pressure. More on their half and 2 up front could be that. I think it's just actually keeping the ball better. I think your defence have had a rough deal at times, especially with the breakaway goals that we've lost. You can't. Even defending set plays is a team game. It's a team game. Everybody's got a job, and let me think. Who let Kingsley in for the first goal? Was it? Well, Christie punched the ball off the line. Well, behind the line. Was it again? It was McGregor again. McGregor lost Stephen Kingsley for the header, and you can't just switch off defensively. But when you defend, there's 10 players back defending. One thing Big Musa Dembele was utterly fantastic was defending the near post.
I was going to say near post.
How many defensive headers did Musa win at that near post?
But does that come down to then organisation and structure at the back and pre-planning and getting that organised in training day in, day out?
It just seems to be any time anybody's got a chance to flight a ball into the box, right? We just panic. We forget our jobs. Every one of them forgets their job, forgets what they're meant to do. It's as if their muscle memory has now disappeared. The muscle memory, because they've been playing the same system for 4 years. So what they're doing is now obviously not working, but they're doing it from muscle memory because it's been drilled into them over the 4 years. But something's failing and something has to change. But it isn't just the goalkeepers failing. It isn't just a centre-half failing. It's a whole team failing that we can't defend. You look at the Brendan Rodgers side and you look at his Leicester side as well. They'll pass teams to death because if they've got the ball, the other team can't score.
Yeah.
We turn over the ball. You were saying earlier on, it was a good point that we seem to be going back to back, side to side, the slow passing. I think this season we've lacked an identity, a playing identity. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's quite strange because actually you would have looked at the second half of last season when we were behind and we came out all guns blazing with this new 3-5-2 that Lenny had introduced, and it was back to Lenny ball or whatever it was getting called, and it was Edward and Griff up front, and we looked like a whole new Celtic from what we had the first half of the season. It was direct, it was fast-paced, it was exciting, it was actually really good to watch as well. That was the thing. We blew teams away the second half of last season. We were winning that league whether it stopped early or not. That points gap could have got outrageous when you added in the two Glasgow derbies as well. I'm not exaggerating. I thought it could have ended up, a huge gap had been formed. What changed? I don't really know. But I couldn't agree more with you. There's been no identity this season. Is that because he's tried to chop and change it so many times? That, going from one formation to another. But the fickle side to football fans is every change that he's made, we've kind of been crying out for them as well. He used to go two up front. He goes two up front, same pish. You know what I mean? It was. It's been a strange season. But yeah, in terms of lacking identity, you are probably right. What the reasons are for that, though, is I really don't know.
Now, the producer has appeared on the screen. Mr. Dykes, with his Matalan coat on. Celtic won a quadruple treble and Rangers fans chanting Axom. Glorious. I mean, I must admit, I didn't understand opposition fans coming on and having a go at us and just when they've got nothing else to do at their lunchtimes.
If they can't keep it to the football, it's their problem, though. Do you know what I mean? Who gives a toss, man?
We do get some fans from other teams who do come on, and they're brilliant and they actually make decent points, and we're all for that. But the ones that come on and start talking about the same old shite and the same old this and that and the 55 and we are the people, just bog off, eh? We're not interested in you.
In fact, that's probably too much airtime than they deserve anyway, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's water off a duck's back.
It probably is. It probably is. Thanks for the views. Thank you for the views. Click like, subscribe. You get plenty of free content, and your grandchildren will be Celtic fans. We all know that.
I mean, Kev, the appearance money's going up by the minute here. The more views we're getting, I'm telling you.
You get appearance money. Wait a minute. I'll need to speak to the gaffer about that. Let's have a wee look back over the charity weekender that we had there. Paul will maybe come in and tell us the total at the moment, but the last time that I looked at the total, we had raised £25,190. How phenomenal is that?
Outstanding, and to be honest with you, is on a par with what was achieved yesterday on the pitch. To be perfectly honest with you, a surreal amount of money, it's actually the pre-planning of it all, the build up to it all. It was very cleverly executed. I love stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? When you get the Go Compare advert guy, I just loved that, man. He did a special message as well, saying to get donating and stuff. All these wee touches, takes a lot of effort to try and get organised, and then to try. People think it's just the streaming side of things. You've got to arrange with all these podcasts to come on at these times. Make sure it's coming out in the platforms right. The actual production deserves a lot of credit as well to actually do that. And when you get fans donating in the amount that they did, it's just makes you proud to be a Celtic fan. You know what I mean? And that's what it's all about, mate.
It's fantastic, and you look at all the podcasts. You have to look at all the other podcasts who gave up their time. Tim's the boy was sitting in his works van. The boy's sitting in his works van. You've got the Kano Foundation as well, Erin Boyle. What a fantastic host. We want to work with her, and she showed that she could actually have her own show, and that was magnificent. Three Tims in a jumper. That was one of the best bits of banter I've ever actually seen on this site. It was great. It was absolutely great that everybody came together, and I can't wait to do it next year. But what I must say a big thanks. I mean, obviously we're in a pandemic time, and I would have been doing it at the studio helping Paul out, but because of restrictions, I couldn't go down there. So a big shout out has to go to Paul for being here for the whole 24 hours, Kelvin as well, and Kelly, who helped him out all day with the admin, with the videos. And I mean, I want to ken what Welshman's phone book Paul got a shot of. Lee Trundle. What a maverick Lee Trundle was, and he just appeared. The guy who got compare. It's unbelievable. And we didn't ken. We didn't know who was coming next.
No, I was absolutely baffled. Every video that he was posting on Facebook of that, it was like, it could have been anyone coming up next. Like I say, I think my personal favourite was the Go Compare guy, just because of the absolute randomness of it all. I'm like, how does that happen?
I don't know. He hasn't even told me how it happened.
He's a man of mystery. But no, I think you're right. I think he deserves a massive, you know what I mean, like pat in the back, round of applause, whatever you want to call it, because it's an astonishing effort on his part. And what he's done is he's got a massive buy-in from the Celtic fans as well, because he's been creative. He's came up with a unique idea, and it's worked an absolute treat.
It has, and we look forward to doing it next year, and maybe in a different format, or hopefully we can get a live event at some point next year as well, and get everybody that's in this magic safe space and room together. Now, I'm just going to wrap up now. Boyce, yep. Thanks very much for coming on. Man. I don't know if I'm here for the match day on Wednesday night, but if I'm not, I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and stay safe, and thanks very much for putting up with us for the last hour and 10 minutes. Thanks very much, lads.
Nice one, Merry Christmas. Cheers. Thank you.